everyone, today we'll be playing Tiny Bunny Prologue. Let's get right into it.
The wind clawed at my window all night long. What? What window? It wandered the fields and howled like a hungry beast. An endless song weaved from all sorts of voices, shrill, gentle, sneery, twined in the air. They were shouting and laughing, and arguing about something. Someone was running through the snow while casting long shadows that would occasionally creep close to my bed. Our house had a mind of its own, the creaking old mind of a building that had seen a lot in its days and was seemingly trying to share its wisdom with the inhabitants. The lonely house faced the forest, and the dark green thicket grazed back at its hollow eyes, rustling, whizzing, swaying back and forth. One could come out and stand at the edge of the forest to reassure themselves there was nobody behind the crooked trees. Fuzzy silhouettes swaying in the wind couldn't possibly do any harm. It's just a play of light and shadow. Just a play. I knew it was just my imagination. I was already 12 after all. Still. A fox. Hey, put away your book. How many times have I told you not to read at the table? It's bad for your health. Look how slouched you are. Alright. I didn't protest and put the book about Conan the Barbarian aside. I was stuck in on a line I couldn't understand after reading it 3 times anyway. Olia had already finished her breakfast and was munching on some cookies. She was so enthusiastic she almost looked like your typical girl from commercials. You're not going anywhere until you finish all of it. I, on the other hand, was still trying to drill a hole in the plate with my eyes, as if it would just make the porridge disappear. Hazy anxiousness swelled up inside, all because of the previous sleepless night, black forest around our house and all the gloomy wind. The longer I waited, the colder the lumpy white substance became. It looked like a jellyfish from the Costial d'Odyssey. I love that show. I wonder how horrifying the bottom of the ocean is, or how cold the black forest is at night. The spoon fell out of my hand. Mama showered me with a cold glare from her green eyes. What did I just say? I'll get it. I had 10 seconds to catch my breath before battling the nasty porridge once again. I felt around for the spoon. What is this carved under the side of the table? Karina. That's my mama's name. I guess she carved it out with something pointy when she was little. She sure was a rascal damaging the furniture like that. She would scold me for a week if I did something similar, though. Should I remind her about it? No, she's been in a bit of a bad mood lately. I imagined her being my age, sitting under this table. I wonder, was I afraid of the dark back then? Or the sounds coming from the attic? Or the thick forest? I imagined my grandma coming to my little mama's room, sitting at the edge of her bed, where Olia sleeps nowadays, and saying this in her soft, smooth voice. Taiga is a special place, little girl. It's watching you closely, sniffing you out, trying to discern what kind of beast you are. If you're a good sort, it won't abandon you in times of trouble. But if you're a bad apple, it'll grab you by the side and drag you under the ground. And that'll be it. Grandma was caring. She never fought with anybody, never yelled, never swore. Those were the times without the maddening screams until late at night, without smashing dishes and mutual accusations. Our parents used to love each other back then. I remember listening to one of their conversations by chance. They were talking about Grandma getting prepared for a funeral. She had already bought a casket, and she called it her cute little funeral box. It waited for its time in the closet, patiently. It was black, upholstered with meat-colored material on the inside. I saw it with my grandma was getting buried. The house didn't change since the time she was alive, only all the photos were gone. Glass-covered pictures with great faces of my ancestors. They all had a dead but watchful look in their eyes. I crawled out from under the table. Olia was done with her cookies and was looking at my share like a sly woodland critter. I turned my gaze toward the frosty window. There were a lot of dark pines outside, but they didn't grab my attention. The pattern of frost formed the picture on the glass. Olia, look, it's a fox! Where? It looked almost like the optical illusion thingies they put on the back of student notebooks. A mixture of lines at first glance, but if you blur your vision a little bit and look under a certain angle, not outside, on the window. Look, here's the nose, and here's... Hey, eat up! Yes, just a moment. I don't see anything. Hurry up, there's not much left. Ah, there it is, but it still doesn't look like one. And I'm telling you it does. Nuh-uh. It does! Stop it! These kids, I swear. Now I couldn't see the fox either. It disappeared, went away. Only the frosty pattern, similar to stretched out nettle leaves, kept creeping up the glass. My dad entered the kitchen with longer, measured steps. I want to have a beard like his when I grow up. Mama would always ask, jokingly, "Come on, shave it off, it stings." This was so long ago. Nowadays, rumbling doors and witty comebacks were an everyday occurrence. Olia always covers her ears whenever she hears something like, "What's the point in all this?" through the wall. "It's all for your sake," Dad would reply, "for the sake of our family." I always caught every sound in fear of hearing the dreadliest word that started with a D. D-I-V-D. I don't even want to finish it. It was scary to imagine that me and my little sister could be torn apart and taken into two different families. Anyway, your fox is nothing. I have an owl on my window. You and your owl will talk again. You said you believed me just yesterday. Has anybody seen my car keys? I remember leaving them on the windowsill. Right. Maybe you did, and maybe not. You're a grown man, a father of two, and still. Karina, please stop. Just let me get ready in peace. Your keys are in the basket near the phone. Well, thank you very much. Anton, stop making a martyr out of yourself and finish eating already. And the owl? There was no owl. But there was one! I had giant glowing eyes. Oya sprung up from her chair and placed her hands on her little face, imitating the pair of eyes with her fingers the size of an apple each. Last year you had Bye-Bye in your closet, and now this owl? But I saw it! Oya shifted her gaze back and forth from Dad to Mama to me, but couldn't find any support. Have you thought about befriending it? How do you know, like feeding it with imaginary mice? Don't bully our girl. She's just afraid to sleep alone because she's still little. Oya pouted her lips in rebellion and rushed into the hallway. The staircase that led to the second floor creaked. Mama gave Dad a strict look. Oh, that look in her eyes. It's so uncomfortable to be pinned under it. Dad just snorted in reply and left, ringing with the keys he just found. A minute had passed, and the theme song from The Little Mermaid echoed through the house. It was stored on incredibly worn-out cassette tape, which Dad already had to glue together once. It's so easy to fix objects, by gluing them back together, for example. But how do you fix a relationship? Mama moved to the living room, and I was left alone, anxiously stealing glances at the window. Oya had trouble sleeping ever since we moved to this house. She would toss and turn or curl up into a ball under her blanket. Sometimes she would jump up in the middle of the night and turn on the VCR. Cartoons helped to take her mind off of the troubles we had on the move and our parents. That the owl? I wouldn't want that at my window either. And then Oya said she saw that giant flying monster outside her window. She became obsessed with it. Our parents did everything in their power. They tried every little trick to get rid of those ridiculous fears. Oya refused to sleep alone and didn't believe that the owl was just one of her nightmares. After tonight, I was unsure what to make of my sister's words, what to think of it myself. Can nightmares be infectious? Just last night, I couldn't get a wink of sleep and ended up thinking of what to expect my new school. There were a couple of days just before the beginning of the new term. My imagination drew long, twisting hallways that led to a classroom full of kids, but all of the students behind their desks were simply dark figures cut out using a template. Circular holes gaped in the middle of their faces, and pairs of eyes blinked inside their holes. It was as if some completely different creatures were looking at me from behind the flat black silhouettes. Their cruel glares, filled with icy sneers, made me shiver from head to toe. Will I survive here? They won't gang up on me, me down, stomp on me with their shoes. This cursed school could burn for all I care. I just wished for anything to happen to it. Doesn't really matter what. I didn't want to go there that badly. I didn't want to see people who are just itching to smack me on the head, trip me up, think of a new offensive name for me worse than the previous one. I felt like the glasses I wore made me an outsider of some sort of monster. My gaze slid across the drawings hanging on the walls. I couldn't consider myself a great artist, but Olia begged me to hang them. Drawing was the only thing that made me happy as of late. The small circle of friends I had also enjoyed my paintings, and they promised to call me from time to time. Sometimes I imagine Mama picking up the phone and saying in a cold voice, "You've got the wrong number," or "Anton's not around, Anton's not around." I imagine my future classmates lying in their beds just like me, listening to the howls of invisible werewolves outside their windows. Maybe a new classmate will like me after all. But who would ever like a boy with thick glasses? I mean, my dad used to wear glasses when he was little, and now he's married to the most beautiful woman in the world, my mama. The house creaked, pressed by the wind. The condo we used to live in, a 9-floor concrete building, buzzed with the neighbor's drill, mumbled with the TV set from behind the wall, cried like a baby from a big family next door. Our current house, though I can't really call it new, was completely different. It was silent and easy-going during the day. Its shadows lay dormant in the corners, on the closet cobwebs, and under the stairs, but they all woke up during the night. Something was watching me from every corner, almost as if the old photos of my deceased family with their ashen eyes were hanging on the walls in place of my drawings. The floor was squeaking, rusty drains were moaning, the attic was occupied by noisy drafts. One could think the house was performing some sort of demonic melody, and then I realized that I was, in fact, hearing music. It was already playing for a good while. Somewhere at the edge of my perception I could hear a flute. It was mixed in with the sound of the wind, of the creaking old house, and my thoughts too. I stood up and rushed to the window, wanted to reassure myself that this music was nothing more than a product of my imagination. It's not like someone is playing it there amidst the snowy night, right? Let's go to the window. Someone was dancing in the fields. Black silhouettes I could barely make out with the dark forest at their backdrop. They jumped around, basking in the moonlight, bumping into piles of snow, rolled around and crawled on all fours. Stories about wolves playing under the moon came to mind, but these were clearly not wolves. They stood upright at times, circled around, holding hands and whipping up snow, disappearing into the shadows for a brief moment and then coming back. Something bizarre was going on. Shadows dancing in the starless abyss made my imagination go wild, making me anxious at the same time. Suddenly, the music had stopped. I had ruined their party, clearly. The dancing shadows froze in place, and I could swear pierced me with their eyes. Yep, they know I had destroyed their party. One of the silhouettes immediately parted from the bizarre shadow carnival and sprinted across the field with giant leaps. Hello, how you doing? It glided on squeaky snow without leaving any prints until it was devoured by the pitch-black shadow of my house, which became even darker and thicker. My heart was jumping around like a bird inside a cage. I shut the curtains with a swift motion and stepped back toward the bed. They saw me! The freezing torment of fear washed over me. I stood in the middle of a perfectly dark room, listened to some unwanted guest move and scrape around, looking for an entrance. The sound moved to the right, then circled around the house. Now my guest should be in the front door. I jumped into the bed and covered myself with the blanket as if it could protect me. Shackles of fear locked my muscles. I remembered the funeral, my grandma lying there, hands crossed on her chest, her facial features shaped like that of Tyndall. Ants running up and down the legs of chairs that held my grandma's casket. I'm sorry, what was running where? How do you... Ants? I imagined those little creatures climbing up her head and pulling up her eyelids with their tiny legs. Then her wrinkly eyeballs would once again move inside their sockets and she'd be able to see her grandchildren. Yeah, that's not disturbing. I was chanting the spell she taught me throughout the whole procedure, and now, lying under the blanket and listening to squeaks and howls, I was repeating the same words. On the island of Bouillon, underneath the blemished sun, in the sea of color blue, stands a cabin made of wood. There lay lard and ashen hair for the spawn of devil's lair to feast and always leave alone God's faithful servant named Anton. Evil leave this house must. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. A bizarre sound had disappeared. I cautiously peeked out from under the blanket and saw curtains waving around like a hangman, and then the night doused me with a new portion of boiling terror. The sound scratched at my eardrums. In reality, something or someone were scratching at the front door, hurriedly crawling at wood, demanding to be let in. The door was shut. Dad had become very cautious recently, so I installed a sturdy lock. Why has he become cautious recently? Is he also hearing and seeing these things? He's just like, oh, I don't see it. I don't hear it. It's not happening. I remember him staring at the forest intently as if he was looking for someone. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. I hugged my knees, placing my chin between them, and drilled the door with my eyes. It was so flimsy and weak before the midst of the darkness. And then The doorknob twitched slightly. Then it turned halfway. Once, twice, as if the person who tried to enter had no hands. The doorknob tilted once more and then started clicking violently. My jaw cramped from fear. My wet fingers clutched the blanket. The door creaked and opened. The wind taunted me, moaning inside the tin drains. Now you'll see. The door was wide open. The darkness writhed inside the carnivorous mouth of a doorway. Tony! Oh, it's Tony. Tony! It was as if the night itself was calling out to me. To me? Am I Tony? I thought my name was something else. Flapping its black wings and squeaky with its rusty hinges, I was trembling, ensnared by the web of darkness that hung in the corridors of the room, waiting for the one who weaved it to come out of the gaping black hole. Tony! Tony! My abdomen tightened and my chest rose up, ready to exhale a desperate scream. But before I was able to do anything, the darkness asked me, Tony, you asleep? Hello. A sister's pale face protruded from the thick shadows. I almost screamed from relief. Oya, I'm not sleeping. Did something happen? Oya frowned and stuck out her lower lip, a clear sign that she was about to cry. I stood there again, staring at me. Shoo her away, Tony, please! I'm so scared. The fear that was tormenting me just a minute ago crawled away and hid somewhere in my stomach. I needed to calm Oya down. It was just a dream, silly. Don't be scared. Dreams don't bite. No one's going to harm you. Oya sobbed. She was trying her best to believe me, but was I sure myself? I have an idea. Let's go to your room and watch the video Sleeping Beauty, for example. You like that cartoon, don't you? Why does the Sleeping Beauty have a prince and I have the scary bird? That question took me by surprise. Alright, let's watch Cinderella. My thoughts became tangled, fuzzy. What was that? What studied me with its eyes while dancing feverishly under the moon? The darkness was clinging to the window, and it couldn't be fooled by Grandma's old chants. It couldn't be satisfied with a feast of lard and long ashen hair. Tony, you coming? Yes, just a moment. I don't think I should have opened the window. Well... That's why I didn't want to laugh at Oya and her owl in the morning. Who could be visiting us here in the middle of nowhere? We don't know anyone around here. So persistent. I felt extremely unsettled just from the silly thought of our morning guests could have come from the woods. I could barely hear voices coming from the front door. My mind was urging me to hide. In the closet, under the table, behind the curtains where Oya always hides. Tony, come here! I felt like kettlebells were tied to my feet, but still dragged them toward the hallway. A couple of policemen towered over me in the doorway. They smelled like frost and worry. They smelled like worry? Oh yeah, I'm definitely a werewolf. I can smell their worry. Okay. I always winced and grumbled the moment she saw patrol cars, worse than bandits. At the moment, though, she looked somewhat confused. Hello? The senior officer, who wore a grim expression, nodded. A boy had gone missing yesterday. His name's Fova. Look at this, please. Have you seen him? The policeman held out a photograph to me. There was a ginger boy around the age of elementary school, pictured with the wall carpet as the backdrop. He had a striped cap in his hand and wore a wide smile. No, I haven't. Are you sure? Look closely. Where would I see him? I don't know anyone around here. I barely leave the house. Well, maybe you've seen him from the window? That's right. Your windows look straight at the forest, don't they? Or not helping me. The window. No, I haven't seen anything. I see. He sounded tired, but his eyes, his stare, long and heavy, was full of suspicion. I squirmed unwillingly under the weight of guilt which his giant shadow cast over me. The policeman finally tore his eyes from me, glanced over the hallway, the stairway, and the cracks in the ceiling, which I haven't noticed before for some reason. How do you like your new place, by the way? Getting used to it? Bit by bit. It's just our little daughter misses the city a lot. Misses the city, huh? Have the locals been treating you well? Yes, everything is alright, thank you. The policeman pierced through me one more time with his gray eyes. My head started spinning. Can I help you somehow? I asked that in a shaky voice to look like a polite boy and to end this unpleasant conversation sooner. Now that I think about it, you look just like one of my nephews, little fella. He's the witty boy around your age, wears the same type of goggles, always engrossed in reading those mystery novels. I'm sorry, did he just call my glasses goggles? This grown man just bully me? He told me he wants to enroll in police school when his family visited this summer. Wanted to help other people just like me, see? I felt uncomfortable, as if a distant relative and not a police officer stood before me. You know what? Little boys like you should stay at home, steer away from trouble. Times have changed so much. Mama interjected in a cold voice. You don't say! Well then, what grade are you in, Tony boy? 6. Have you made any friends here so far? Not yet. I'll be going to school for the first time after the break. Then I'll leave you my number just in case. Call me if you have any new info. Policemen were gone, along with the shadows, the smell of cheap cologne, and the photo of a smiling boy. His face stood before my eyes. I wondered what it was like for him, being all alone there. For some reason I thought of the forest swaying in the wind. What did his poor parents feel? And what would my parents do if I'd gone missing? Would they cry and thrash around hysterically? Or would they accuse each other like they always do and forget about me eventually? Mama, this Vova, did he go missing in our forest? Seems like it. Poor child. I looked out of the window at the road. The police UAZ drove off toward the village. The officer's nephew came to mind when I was splitting off old paint from the windowsill. I remembered all the teenage mystery novels from the Black Kitty series I've read this summer. Your average boys and girls investigated all sorts of mysteries there. They looked for clues, spied on suspicious people, and after a set of amazing adventures, bam! Solved any complicated case. They became local celebrities and must have made their parents very proud. I noticed a trail of policemen's footprints that led to the forest, and then it clicked in my head. Why don't I start an investigation of my own? Maybe I'll find that lost boy, and then I'll get a reward. Olia will be so happy. And not only Olia, Mama and Dad too. Maybe they'll even forget about their quarrels for a while. Maybe I'll even save us from the D word. I fantasized about buying Oya a Tamagotchi and getting a cassette tape and a bunch of tapes for myself, and a whole box of Kinder Surprise. When was the last time our parents bought us any toys? Last autumn, I think. My dad lost his job at the time. There was that annoying song about it. I had little to no idea what was the accountant's job like. They count money, I think. Neighbors used to envy us. But nowadays, Mom and Dad barely had money to afford sweets, and Dad would always divide a single chocolate bar between me and Oya. Sometimes I gave her my share too. No matter how much I wanted to eat sweets, she was still just a pipsqueak. I couldn't wait to go out looking for clues. I'm going outside! Yeah, right! You want the police to go around with your photograph next? The forest is so thick. What if the boy got snatched up by wild animals, or something even worse? Even worse, echoed through the hallway. I won't go far. I'll stay away from the forest. Did you hear what I said? Or should I repeat myself? Better go pack your school bag or play with Oya. The sound of splashing water came from the kitchen. It meant that the argument was over and Mama had the last word. Let's see. Can I just go anyway? Anton! I'll you if you make a single step out that door. Yo, what? Oh my god. The dark, stuffy closet. Mama says it smells like mice, but how would she know their smell? She hates when I stick my nose in there. She's afraid I'll cut myself on the freshly sharpened axe. And Oya can't even be lured close to it. She thinks Babai is living there. I tried to help her fight her fears once. I opened the door and turned on a dim lamp so she would see there was nothing but cobwebs, dead tools, and scratched walls. She still didn't believe me. And I liked to hide in the closet and I listened to Oya count outside. 1, 2, 3, better hide from me. And then drag her feet on the cracking floorboards, hoping that she wouldn't need to look for me in the cramped monster's den. Okay, I guess the only option is kitchen. Fridge. Let's see, we have some really fat pickles, maybe a jar of some cream cheese maybe, body. Grandma kept ice cream for me and Oya there, but now I can only see meat bits for soup and clumped together polmenia. I grew to hate them already. I have no idea what that is. Okay, that's all we got there. Can't talk to her. It was difficult to lie to Mama, but there was no other way for me to run away from home. Mama, there's something wrong with the TV. The picture is dim and there are stripes all over the screen. Mama's face became visibly distorted. Ugh, you're f***ing me here. So have you had enough of those stupid ducks now? Told you the scope will go dim because of your console. This is my fault. Where will we find a TV technician in this hole, huh? Maybe it's just the settings? Please go see for yourself. Strange, it worked fine in the morning. Maybe the snowfall caused it? Mama rubbed her hands clean on her apron and went to Olia's room. Okay, bye. Gonna go run before she finds me. I opened the front gate and went into the field, carefully so Mama wouldn't see me from the window. When I crossed half of the distance towards the forest, the snow piles became as high as my knees. I remembered my nightly fears. I saw the silhouettes around here. They were jumping around, holding hands. The hypnotizing music started playing in my head all on its own. Under the light of the day, those distant figures felt like a simple dream. The sun turned my nightmares to ash, but the aftertaste was still there, distant ringing in my ears, distorted shadows crawling on the snow alongside me, and a barely audible whisper in my head, blurry and almost kind. Everything was silent. So silent it felt like the world was totally empty. No ground, no sky, no parents, no Oya. The time reached its limit, a one-way trip that ended at the forest's spiny stockade. Sometimes silence was much scarier than any scream. Our parents would scream at each other while arguing, and both me and Oya turned to stone listening to them. But then always came the ringing silence. Our apartment became numb a couple of days before we departed. It was hard to remember the last time Mama and Dad joked around, laughing, or spent time together, almost like all of it was in a previous life. When they kissed with Oya present, she always frowned and snorted in a funny way. But one day it all changed. Something important had left our home, and something scary filled the remaining void. It was as if a fire broke up, and our parents were hurriedly packing our belongings, trying to save themselves and us. From who, though? From the people with cold eyes who sometimes visited us in our previous home? The eyes that only saw balls of worms on the black ground and everything? Sorry, what? And somewhere far away a siren was going off, trying to warn us of the upcoming menace. I shuddered, chasing away my delusions, and looked around. There was only me, the white field, and wind that was whipping up icy dust and belts of powdered snow. I squinted from the sun and turned my eyes to the sunless forest. It looked especially dark in contrast with the blinding whiteness. Knobby tree roots slithered under the snow like flat snakes. Rotten leaves and coniferous needles froze into the ice. Dry, prickly branches intertwined, bringing up uncomfortable thoughts about fences. Were they protecting the forest, or were they keeping something from breaking out? Some object was hanging from one of the pointy branches. I tried to get closer, drowning in snow, and when I almost got to the edge of the forest, I saw a knitted mitten. It looked like a wounded bird among the hungering semi-dark. Should I take it to the police? The senior officer looked gloomy, but he still reminded me of Captain Casanova from my favorite TV show called The Streets of Brooklyn Lights. He was always anxious, with a tired look in his eyes, but still brave and strong. Will this mitten help them find the lost boy? Yova! I heard a distant shout. Looked like it came from the river. Yova! As if the trees were calling out to someone. Yova! Sounded closer to me. Someone was standing there behind the trees, hiding. Vova! I knew someone was looking for the lost boy, but still, something was unsettling about that figure. Its stillness, how it was bent unnaturally toward the ground, its blackness. There's no one there, just branches and roots. It's all just my imagination. A nearby bird flapped its wings loudly. A shadow split through the tree and disappeared from my sight. I looked away for just a moment, but when I turned my gaze back to the same place, it was gone. So was my imagination after all. Silence reigned for a painfully long time. My muscles were tightly sprung, my heart was beating somewhere in my throat. Any noise, any livable movement, any small whisper from the thicket, and I'd sprint. But nothing of the sort happened. I looked at the mitten once more. Okay, I could run away or take it. I came all the way out here, I'm gonna take it. I decided to take the lonely mitten from the branch. Yova! A shout rumbled across the field and dissolved into the distance. No echo, no hope for a reply. Okay. I stepped toward the bristly trees and tried to claim my find. It didn't budge. I pulled harder, the branch cracked, and the mitten tore off, landing in my hand with a squishy sound. All too heavy, wet. I squeezed it without thinking. Why would you do that? And something dark spilled from it, forming a tiny string between the mitten and the snow. Steam rose from the snowy pile. It was disgusting. I froze in place, studying my palms with disgust. Red. The sound of cracking branches invaded the silence. I didn't have to think twice before running away. Someone was chasing me from the darkness, breaking pine branches, closing the distance with giant leaps. Snow was slowing me down. Crazy thoughts flew through my mind. I'll get caught. They'll get me. I'll get dragged into the thicket. I'll be gone forever. But there was one more voice, probably one of reason. It gave me strength, spurred me on. You can do it. Don't stop. I heard an animal roar behind me. It was so loud my ears went numb. It felt like the sound had come from a pack of hungry beasts rather than a single one. Their nostrils sucked in freezing air. They sensed my fear. Two giant wings flapped above my head. An enormous shadow flew over the clearing. A hoot, a wheeze. The roars were coming from all directions now. From the dried-up raspberry bush, from the twisted pines, from under the waterfall. Hurry, hurry, run, don't look back. It felt like I was inside a nightmare. The snowy clearing became vicious like quicksand. I was stuck in place. I pulled my leg from the mushy trap just to be caught in a new one, even deeper than before. I continued to drown, sinking deeper and deeper with every desperate push. Wasn't the snow ever this sticky? I screamed in horror after realizing this wasn't snow. Someone or something in the snow pile was clutching my pants. Why were they doing that? I gathered all my strength and rushed forward. The pressure of my leg was gone. My boots slipped out from the hole and my soles were on a hard surface again. I reached the clearing path with one jump, and from there I ran to my house. Its gloomy facade didn't look threatening now. The house was my line of defense from the shadows that flapped their wings and the creatures that were hidden under the snow. I tripped over the doorstep and smashed into the door. In all my hurry, I still managed to notice the claw marks, as if the dog was striking the woods with its paws, demanding to be let in so it could escape the cold. I hadn't noticed these marks when I was leaving. The heartbeat in my ears was much louder than my surroundings. I couldn't hear whether someone was following me or not. What if they were already in our front yard while I had locked the door? Drowning in fear, I pulled on the doorknob and it immediately gave way. I rolled into the hallway and shut the door behind me. Porch planks creaked as my pursuers ascended the stairs. My fingers slipped off the lock and couldn't click it into place. I gritted my teeth and pulled hard on the iron knob, whipping it between the boards. I stared blankly at the door. Someone was standing on the other side of the pitiful, flimsy barrier that was probably less useful than blankets. Wheezing breath reached into the house and crashed at me in waves. It smelled like pine and sweat. Mama peeked out from the kitchen and chastised me with the same frigid voice she always used when talking to Dad. What exactly didn't you understand when I told you to never slam the door? I didn't mean to. I snuck a glance at the door. The smell was gone, and the breath was too. If there was someone in the first place, of course. Here, mere 5 meters away from Mama, my fear was slowly weakening, melting like snow in spring, and with it the last bit of strength had left my body too. My legs gave way. I propped myself up against the wall so I wouldn't fall over. Mama's expression had changed immediately. The cold mask of strictness and detachment was gone. Mama looked the same before all those quarrels. She finally saw my condition, my wet pants plastered with snow. I thought it would be something else. Where have you been? What did I tell you, huh? I told you to stay home. Am I nothing to you too? I got afraid she would cry. I reached out to her like when I was very little and wanted her to cuddle me. But Mama regained her composure fast and put on her usual face. Her eyes shined like steel. Her voice rang out. Your dad can't find his cigarettes. Be honest. Did you snatch them? Were you smoking in secret? Are you serious, lady? There was someone chasing me. I thought... I stuttered as soon as I started explaining myself. Tears welled up in my eyes. Mama leaned toward me and sniffed my clothes like a beast, searching for the smell of tobacco. Then she squinted her eyes in suspicion and looked into the front yard. Her expression changed in an instant, and she covered her mouth with her hand. Look over there, at the fence! My heart started thumping as if I became prey once again. My pursuers were following me in the field. I could swear that I've heard something scratch at the door, just like in my nightmares. Mama beckoned me with her finger, and I gathered all my remaining bravery to look into the kitchen window facing my fear. I could barely discern some hairy silhouettes swimming in the snow through the icy winter patterns on the glass. Dogs! Just a small pack of strays with no name and owner, barely reminding of the hungry monsters that live on the edge of the forest. Oh boy, were you scared of them? I think they'd rather be scared of you, Anton. And they were chasing me like a bunny! And what if they're rabid? The smile had slowly disappeared from Mama's face. Now she looked at the dogs as if it was first time seeing them. What if they attacked Olia? Mama, I wish your dad could just them all. What? Mama, look, they're alive! Huh? What? Are they your friend or foe after all? Make up your mind. You're not a little kid anymore. I sighed in annoyance, and I felt so bitter that I bit my bottom lip and fixed my gaze on the cobweb-ridden corner. Well, some detective I am. In reality, I wasn't risking my life among monsters, but rather my pants among a pack of stupid strays. And what for? What use do I have for this? Mitten. Of course! A dark and sticky mitten that belonged to the lost boy made a squishy sound in my hand. Seems like I was clutching it the whole time. That's my trump card as a detective. I hurried to present this clue to my mama. Mama, look, this is Volva's mitten. Boy the police were asking about in the morning. It's drenched in blood. I found it hanging on a tree. I can show it where. Let's call the police right away, like the officer had told us to. Oh, look. Ew! A shadow of doubt slowly crept onto Mama's contorted face, as if she was trying to remember something distant, like someone tries to remember their dream, but the images slip away. Stop at this moment! Olia will go insane if she hears you. She already has trouble sleeping and whines all the time. And you joke around like this? At that moment I realized the mitten was actually wet from snow. There was no whatsoever. I wanted to sink through the floor from embarrassment. Come here, my boy who cried wolf. Oh, don't just stand there. Come take your pills. My pills. A golden-colored pill, reminiscent of a wasp, fell into my palm. I already took one during breakfast. Don't talk over me. I told you to stay home, and you. Dad would have given you a good for that. Come on, take it, or you won't be able to sleep at night, and you have school tomorrow. So I had to swallow the bitter medication, drinking it down with similarly awful water that gave off the taste of chlorine. Was she trying to open me? Maybe it wasn't Volva's mitten. Maybe it wasn't a mitten at all. Just like the forest monsters. And Olia's owl. Am I going mad? Dude, this lady's going mad. She's literally her kid. What's happening to me? Or she's trying to kill me. Either the pill had an immediate effect or an overexerted brain didn't let fear inside me anymore. Serenity washed over me, bringing any difference along with it. Anton, you done? See, you can do it when you try. Take off your coat. You asleep? No, I was just thinking. What about, I wonder? It's just something silly. Mama scrutinized me with suspicious eyes, as if she wasn't sure she was looking at her own son and not some doppelganger that came from the forest. Is everything alright? You had the exact same expression when the policeman asked you about the window. It's alright, Mama. She heaved a deep sigh. Fine. It seemed like the house had changed. The sofa's fabric had become discolored. Fingerprints appeared at the bathroom tiles. The light bulbs also felt different, dimmer and yellower. Even the saliva inside my mouth had a different taste. A melody from Aladdin could be heard from the upper floor. Oya was done rewatching her favorite Little Mermaid episodes and switched out the tapes. I slowly changed into my home clothes, stopped before the sink, and studied my reflection in the mirror like I was trying to solve one of those spot the difference puzzles. Then I went upstairs. Jafar's and Lago's voices died down. I walked past Olya's bedroom and slipped into my own. Okey-doke. One of the drawers was empty. I hid the mitten there. The simple action drained the last bit of strength from me. I sat on the bed, and then I noticed there was someone behind the curtains. My tired hand dropped to the sheets. Whether it was due to medication I took or the stress I underwent, the room began to contort as if the wind was blowing the walls out like a pair of sails. The room's corners bent undulated. The only stable thing in the whole room was the figure between the windowsill and the curtains. A flimsy piece of cloth was stuck to my hidden visitor, just like a servant of sorts. Olya? Who else would be standing there? I stood up and licked my dried-up lips. Yeah, Olya, it's so funny. The silhouette was unmoving. It was enveloped softly by the curtains, as if there was a thick layer of darkness there, not a human being. I reached toward the curtains, but beat my heart, controlled by medication. The wind sang in the field with a chorus of voices. For a second I wanted to return to the bed, to slide down and watch the person behind the curtain, knowing full well they were looking back at me. They were looking without blinking, waiting for me to fall asleep. Plastic rings rustled against the holder when I pulled open the curtains. Gotcha! I knew it was you from the beginning. A blindingly bright halo lit up above Olya's head with the setting sun as the background. My sister was shining. When she was just a baby, Dad always used to say she was shining with happiness. I always retorted, but Dad, she's not some flashlight. But I brought her to the window one day and sunlight poured on her smiling face. I felt like I was holding a child woven from light. I saw everything. Oh, really? What did you hide? She was just like my mama when she was little, before she put on her sad mask of tiredness and switched to her commanding tone of voice. It's nothing, just... Olya ran up to the table, her eyes round, and asked, You stole something and hid it there? Are you a thief? What? Don't be stupid. I didn't steal anything. A clear image came to mind, that mitten hanging from a tree branch. What if I did steal after all? From the forest, from the tilted figure standing behind black trees. Olya could be selfish and stubborn when she wanted. Then show me. Swear to that you won't tell anyone, then I'll show you. Olya wore a plotting smile. I swear on Mama's heart. An oath she heard in one of the movies about the pioneers we've watched. Don't say things like that. Olya nodded and made a gesture with her hand, locking her mouth on an imaginary key. She was filled with curiosity that was splashing in her giant eyes. I opened the door and Olya leaned in, holding her breath. It looked like there was not just a simple mitten, but some sort of exotic critter. Is this someone's mitten? She said that as if she couldn't understand what she saw. A certain boy lost it and got lost himself. Now do you understand how dangerous it is for kids to wander into the forest, right? He must be really cold out there. Will they find him? They will. The police are going house to house, showing his photo to everybody. Olya traversed the room with care and pressed her tiny palms against the window. And why are they going to houses and not the forest? Are they scared? The question caught me off guard. The police aren't scared of anything. Yeah, right, flashed in my clouded mind. Did they really check every nook and cranny where darkness, cold, and whispers of icy branches dwell? If that's the case, how did they miss the mitten? Or did it appear later for me? I changed the topic, as if trying to get Olya as far away as possible from the forest thicket. We may get a reward if I go and find this boy by myself. A lot of stuff, like in the Field of Wonders. Sounds cool, right? Olya wasn't listening to me. She was piercing the forest with incredibly adult eyes, uncharacteristic for her. What if the owl got him? Nonsense! Now I won't be able to lift a human. But you know what? I was picking my words with utmost care. I forced them out of my overexerted brain. Stay away from the forest. I think it's how should I put it? It's cursed or something. Just like a fairy tale? No, not like that. More like in that spooky tape Mom and Dad are hiding from us. Oya shivered and stole a glance at the window. I saw you running away. Someone was chasing you. No, it's just, I was hurrying back home so Mama won't be worried. As I looked at my sister, my heart was tearing apart. She was so fragile. It was so easy to stifle her light. A gust of wind and her small fire would be gone. You're lucky. Mama won't even let me go outside. I'm like a princess in a tower. Can't go anywhere. I'll die from boredom here. You're wrong. No one has ever died from boredom. And you have me and your cartoons, and Mom and Dad will be good to each other soon. You know what I would wish for on my next birthday? I wished for Mom and Dad to be turned into children so we could go and play together like we used to. Yeah, and if you'd make them as small as bugs, we could place them into a little box. Olivia giggled and tugged at my sleeve. Tony, let's go watch Aladdin. Fatigue won over my desire to be with my little sister. I was washed over by some sort of heinous apathy. I'm too tired. I don't want to. Come on. It's so boring alone, and Mama's always busy. We can pick a cartoon you haven't seen before. I know all of your tapes by heart at this point. Not all of them. You haven't watched Peter Pan. Remember how you fell asleep in the middle of it? And so much happens after that. Let's go, let's go. Maybe a bit later. Should I tell you how it ends? Let's leave that for tomorrow. I won't tell you tomorrow. I know, let's play hide and seek. No, Oya. Then draw me a dino. Oya, please. Draw it. Will you leave me alone already? I blurted it out without thinking, and then I was immediately taken aback. I'd never screamed at my little sister like that. Oya stared at me in shock. Her lips started trembling, a precursor to her tears. My chest was seething with disgust and embarrassment. What's happening to me? I hurried to prevent Oya from crying. All right, you win. Let's go watch cartoons for a bit. I don't wanna. I came up to her, put my hands onto her soft head. Let's go watch Peter Pan. Boo, you fall asleep again. I smiled and lifted her chin. Her eyes were wet and felt bottomless. I promise I won't. And I'll draw for you a full Triceratops later. Hurry! Triceratops. Well, close enough. Oya rubbed her eyes with the sleeve of her pajamas and a shining smile returned to her face. I'll go ask Mama for condensed milk and bread and you and White to take. The bread is fresh, just how you like it. Alright, just be careful not to spill the milk, or you'll be yelled at again. Want to bet I won't spill it? The tape is somewhere in the nightstand. Look for it. Oya disappeared into the doorway, and I dragged my feet into the neighboring room. Alright, let's turn this on. And the old photon TV was gathering dust in the corner. All that was left was clicking the button on the front panel. The tube warmed up, and familiar white noise started dancing on the black screen. Alice reached out to turn on the VCR when the noise calmed down and a blurry image appeared for a moment. It was a dark taiga forest, just like the one outside my window. The picture split the screen in half. Something creepy resembling human speech was coming out of the speaker. Just a few moments later, the scenery was again overshadowed by noise. Did it catch some rogue signal? The local TV station only really showed Soviet cartoons, and even that was pretty rare. And only just recently I used to always watch Robotech before school. That was so awesome. Maybe I should tinker with the antenna? What if I catch this channel again? On the other hand, Oya had asked me to find the tape. It wouldn't be nice to disappoint her, but in my sleepy state, I didn't have the strength to do all of it. Find this tape, I guess. I sifted through the shelves full of dolls and blue hippos from Kinder Surprise. But I found the tape I needed thanks to its shabby spine. I got the black rectangle from its box. The tape inside it rustled with rewinding to the beginning. The rustle was lulling me to sleep. Drowsiness attacked me while I was squatting before the TV. Images whirled in my head, me and Olivia flying above the forest, tumbling into the soft clouds. My little sister is laughing, but her smile becomes more and more forced with every passing second. I noticed that the clouds underneath us part bearing the bristly pine tops. Swampy darkness slurped among the trees. The wings are no longer able to hold us in Olia. You haven't started without me, have you? My sister brought the tray with unevenly cut bread and a whole can of condensed milk. I rubbed my eyes. No, come sit. Mom and Dad are arguing again. They're going through rough times. Rough times are lame. On the screen, Wendy was hiding Peter Pan's shadow into the dresser. Oya was entertained by this cartoon dog Nana. Maybe Mama and Dad will buy us a dog too? Yeah, right. I'll have my own dog in the Netherlands, and a cat, and a parrot. Oya smeared a slice of bread with a thick layer of condensed milk and handed it to me. Have you lost all of your baby teeth? Obviously. Oya frowned, deep in thought. Peter Pan has baby teeth. What if they won't let you go to his land with adult teeth? We'll think of something. We'll ask Dad to alter your age at the passport. Why would Dad forge documents? Oya took a bite from the sandwich and started talking with her mouth full. He will! He helped Mama and he did that before. He'll grow with big ears as big as Dumbo's. Oya got worried and touched her ear. I smiled to myself. My little sister was silent now. She just devoured bread, watching the adventures of Peter Pan, Tinker Bell, and James Hook. As if she got sucked into the fairy tale Neverland. To be honest, I also imagined myself there, in a land where no one ages, where no one argues over little things, where no one listens to fights and the sound of broken plates at night. It felt like I was dreaming with my eyes still open. Then my sister's scream pulled me back to reality. Tony, shut the curtains fast! Why? No one's watching you. It's dark, and when it's dark, the owl comes. I'm scared. I got out of bed, fighting my drowsiness, and closed the curtains. Okay. I did my best not to look outside, toward the treetops, towards the taiga forest, which seemingly drew closer and closer. Of course, it was just a visual effect from the shadows of branches scraping the snow. Tony, Mama thinks I made the owl up. And Dad, too, thinks I'm a liar since I'm small. But the owl exists. Honestly, it does. You believe me, right? It comes every night and... I swiftly grabbed Olia's hand and looked her into the eyes. I was trying to transfer at least some of my courage and determination. But did I really have those qualities? Yes, I believe you, all right? Just don't nag our parents about it anymore. They are already dealing with a lot, so they'll just get mad at you. Come and tell me if anything happens. And don't look out the window. But it wants me to look. That doesn't matter. Act like it doesn't exist and never existed, like it's made up, just like Mom and Dad say. They'll get tired of waiting and fly away. It was madness, but after everything that's happened recently, I was more and more inclined to believe Olia's owl existed. We followed Peter Pan's adventures as if nothing happened, as if the forest didn't kids, as if our parents weren't tearing each other apart bit by bit. Captain Hook was running away from a crocodile, and Captain Pan was headed to London on the gilded sailor boat. By some miracle, I lasted longer than my little sister. Olia's eyelids had dropped. She started snorting slightly, resting her chin on the side of the bed. I stood up and left Olia's room. I was looking out the window, studying the field, when Mama peeked into my room. Enough playing around. It's your first day at school tomorrow. Go to bed. You should sleep properly. You don't want to be teased for being sleepy, right? Adults think everything is so simple, as if sound sleep would ensure my classmates would like me. I covered myself with a blanket up to my neck and listened to the house humming, to something invisible rustling in the corners. My inner voice had a question for me. Do I want to hear that mysterious flute again? Yes or no? Maybe it's just a part of growing up and can't fully understand my own desires. The forest wailed behind the barrier that was my walls. Some ethereal entity wandered the fields. Branches shook as if calling for me. The wind howled on in the night. My thoughts were like annoying flies that entered my head before becoming weak and tangled. I didn't notice how I fell into slumber. Oh, thank you for completing episode 1 of Tiny Bunny. Did you enjoy it? Do you want to know what happens next? We're already working hard on the continuation of the story. That's cool. Okay, so that's the end of that right now. I think it'll be interesting to see where it goes, that's for sure.